Okay, I'm going to get us started. Hey now, everybody, welcome to the Travel Massive Live India Quarantine Panel. And again, I'm going to ask everybody that please leave their profile on mute as well as their video off. And I'm going to bring up a couple of slides. I know we all love PowerPoints, but this will be short and brief. So I'm excited about our panel tonight. I want to introduce myself briefly. My PowerPoint will work. My name is Ric Gazarian, and I am part of the team here at Travel Massive. I'm the chapter leader in Bangkok as well as the Asia coordinator. I'm a travel blogger, content creator, and for those trivia buffs, I've actually filmed a movie in India, and it was licensed and played on Epic TV, which was a pretty cool thing for the bucket list. So I'm excited about our panel tonight. As you know, we have 4 representatives from the travel world in India. So we're going to get some great insights into what's happening now and what we can expect in the future. I want to welcome our 4 panelists, Shelley Mackin, Mary Ellen Ward, Mani Mahesh Arora, and Neil Parath. Sorry for saying everybody's names wrong. Our panel represents 4 different areas of industry. So again, we're going to have some great insights. I'm going to have them introduce themselves in a moment a little bit more fully. But I want to jump through and just cover 4 things very quickly. Why you should update your Travel Massive profile, list, podcast, and housekeeping. Okay. I know a lot of us spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but you should be updating your Travel Massive profile as well. Why is that? Because when people Google your name, it will literally be one of the first things you see under the search engine. So make sure you're current and keeping it very robust and sharing information. We have nearly 60,000 travel professionals in our network around the world. And one mechanism we've been utilizing to highlight some of our members, our list. We all love lists. So let's take a quick look at some of the lists that we've been putting together. 100 inspiring women in the Travel Massive community. 50 travel startups to watch in 2020. And 30 travel podcasters you should be listening to today. So I know some of us do have some extra free time on our hands today. We're looking for great content, so you can check out this list, as well as Travel Massive has their own podcast where we interview members from the Travel Massive community. So please subscribe to that and check that out. So some housekeeping issues, I said it before, but this will lead to a much more high quality conversation tonight. Leave your profile on mute and the video is off. We do want questions. We're encouraging you to share any thoughts that you might be having. So there's a chat box. You can share your thoughts there. We are recording the event and we will be having a link which you'll be able to watch the video at a later point. And make sure you've signed up for Travel Massive Live on Travel Massive. We're hosting scores of online events in the next couple of months. So I'm going to unshare my screen here. Okay. And off the right here, I'm going to have our members introduce themselves from the panel. I'm going to start off with Neil. If you can say hi and please tell us a little bit about yourself. And remember to take yourself on mute.
Hi, I'm Neil from WebCRS, founder of WebCRS. I'm from Kerala, Cochin, India. So I'm into technology for tourism for last 20 years, helping hoteliers and travel businesses to use and adapt technologies in their day-to-day business. So I'm excited to be here as part of Travel Massive in the pursuit to improve skills and entrepreneurial approach in tourism through COVID and post-COVID. So it's very important to stay sustainable through this period and also create such a scenario that we can continue to create experiences and deliver those experiences to the world which needs travel.
Excellent. Thank you. And Mani, we will go to you if you can introduce yourself, please. And feel free to take yourself up. Perfect.
Yeah, hi. My name is Mani Mahesh. I'm from India. I'm based in the foothills of the Himalayas in a place in a small town called Dehradun. I am the co-founder of Green People, which is an integrated impact organization working towards checking the problem of out-migration from the small villages in rural India, particularly in the Himalayas. Some of our key initiatives include the goat villages, which is a sustainable and rural tourism vertical. The second initiative is called Bakri Chap, which is providing market linkage to the small and marginalized farmers of the Himalayas. And the third acclaimed initiative is called Bakri Swayamvar, which is the marriage of goats for gene pool improvisation and women empowerment. And absolutely delighted to be part of this discussion. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Mani. I appreciate your time and thank you. And Mary Ellen, can you introduce yourself as well?
Hi, thanks for having me on the chat. It's really exciting to be here. I've been involved with Travel Massive basically since the beginning, as I was the co-founder of the very first Travel Massive chapter in Toronto, which is coming up on 10 years ago this summer. And I know that London started around the same time, so we have this rivalry about who was first, London or Toronto, but of course I say it's Toronto.
And especially since London's not here, you can definitely claim that title.
It's definitely Toronto. Toronto was first. So, so it's exciting 10 years later to be still involved with Travel Massive and watching Travel Massive do these really innovative outreach type things like this panel. So really big kudos to Travel Massive, especially in this time, for continuing to connect the community, educate the community, and I really can't say enough good things about Travel Massive. So I'm a Canadian, I'm from Toronto, I just mentioned that, and I'm a travel journalist and a travel blogger, and I've been blogging for 14 years, travel blogging for 14 years, and I've been traveling in India for 14 years, specializing in India, and I now live here. I live in Rishikesh, which is quite near Dehradun, which two of the other panelists are based in right now. So we're all in the same region. It's the Lower Himalayas. It's a beautiful region. And this area is highly, highly dependent on tourism, pilgrimage tourism, yoga students, all kinds of things. So it's this whole topic of, people not being able to travel is not only big for us personally, but it's really big for this region.
Excellent. Thank you, Mary Ellen. And Shali, if you can take a moment and say hello and introduce yourself.
Yes, hi everybody, and this is Shelly, and I am a travel experience curator running a company called Roots with Us for the last 6 years. We offer group trips, customized trips, and a lot of corporate with a mix of learning, with a mix of thematic understanding. For me, travel is more out of passion, and I always chase for experiences. So I guess even all my itineraries which I offer to people around are based out of local flavor, authenticity, and a lot to do with the community. So and this is the time when I'm actually writing down all my learnings from the travel and creating that as a digital output to everybody, because I guess travel is something that we can learn a lot from. So that has always kept me up, and I guess, and I'm so happy to be part of this discussion and sharing my own experience and journey throughout. Well, and as a Travel Massive Delhi chapter lead, I would also welcome other panelists over this discussion, and thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Shali. And we do have some people joining us from outside of India. So I think it'd be great to get some insights. How is COVID affecting the people, affecting the country presently? Maybe Mani, you can share us a little bit of a broad and brief overview of what's happening in the country today.
Well, there's a huge impact the way country, and the population and the people of this country are affected right now. There's a lot of out migration, or rather, I would say a back or a reverse migration, which is happening from the big cities, especially with a lot of migrant laborers who are working on daily wages in the big capital cities like Delhi, Mumbai, etc. They are moving back to their villages. Apart from this, there's a lot of there's a rise in the cases of domestic violence. Mental health is being affected, but at the same time, there's a positive side to it. The positive side to it is people are actually getting to spend a lot of time and energy on rebooting their business models and trying to make their business models more ecologically sustainable. So that's one positive aspect of it. And apart from this, the entire country is locked down. All the states, all the cities, airports are shut down. No travel is happening. Indian Railways, which happens to be the largest railway network in Asia, is not operating, and millions of people rely on that. So everybody is locked down. There's a curfew out there. We're all in our homes, and agriculture is being highly impacted. There's a 60 to 70% of population which is directly or indirectly dependent on agriculture in India. And Indian agriculture also contributes to 16 to 17% of its GDP. So there's a lot of impact, of course, on all the lives, especially on the lives of people who are on daily wages and cannot afford a decent lifestyle. But at the same time, we're all hoping to come out of this in a better way and be more, conscious and sustainable about our lifestyles and choices.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, I mean, facing some incredible challenges for the people, for the economy, but I am happy you shared with us like a silver lining that this is an opportunity to re-examine and reboot your business. And if there's anything or of interest or note that the other three panelists want to share about what's happening in their neck of the woods, feel free to chime in if there's an interesting point in your neighborhoods. Okay, that's okay. And let's drill down a little bit further, because you gave us a great broad overview of what's happening for the country as a whole, but I want to learn what specifically is happening in the tourism business. So Neil, let's start off with you. You're selling enterprise systems, ERPs, to tour operators and hotels. You're trying to help them with their back ends so that they can focus on customer experiences. What have your experiences been the last month or two in a time of COVID in terms of dealing with your customers and sales? Any sort of insights? And remember to take yourself off mute.
Yeah. So since we are operating in the space of rural and sustainable tourism, so it definitely hit temporarily like the rest of the tourism branches in the country. But at the same time, for instance, interestingly, when this lockdown started, and then even states like New Delhi in India were in a lockdown and people were in quarantine, we were getting a lot of inquiries from people who would have wanted to not prefer taking public transportation, but rather they would have preferred driving into these places because that's safer than taking public transportation. But people were still interested and keen to travel, and especially to places which are more inwards, which are more remote, which offer which offer a bit of exclusivity, which are not very huge in inventory, which offer personalized experiences, which offer clean air, clean climate, clean water, good food, maybe a detox from technology, and a detox from the city lifestyle. People were still keen on traveling before the lockdown became very serious for all of us. So, but ever since the lockdown has been serious for all of us, it's been completely shut. Now the state governments across India have sealed the borders for the tourists, and there is no movement happening of the travelers.
Okay, great. And Neil, if we could hear from you, I'd like to get your insights. You're selling back-end systems to hotels and tour operators. How's your business affected the last couple of months? What are you seeing?
Okay, So directly into sales, it has come to a screeching halt, like all businesses across tourism segment. Tourism is one of the most affected, the worst affected industry in the world in COVID, rather than anything else. So, and just we have been specializing in only in that space. So obviously nobody is buying anymore in terms of technology at this point of time. So when we looked at that scenario, yes, but we found something very interesting. What interesting was that though the new clients were coming back, we had we had existing clients had a very interesting turnout, which means that we saw a rapid growth in the usage of the existing team post a small campaign that we did. What we did is we were looking at this scenario of something very important and different, which is in a lockdown, we are losing one of the most important stuff, which is the man hours, skilled, resourceful man hours sitting at home. And these are the asset. This is one resource of a country, which is also a big asset, which makes money for the country or the community or the state or the city, right? All of that, or the country, as I said. So this man hours sitting at homes who were working with the travel industry and all of that, it's the money written off. I mean, that asset is being completely wasted. And hence, so we said, why don't we utilize this manpower? So we got back to our clients and spoken to them to saying that, hey, anyway, you have to retain your team, which is very important and critical part of your business. And if you're going to retain them and you're going to pay them salaries, maybe not the full amount, but in parts to keep them sustainable, you are still losing that money wasted. So why? What can you do about it? So the idea was to utilize that manpower sitting from home with some few tools additionally that we created in the COVID period to be deployed to deploy work from home. So what happens is my clients started utilizing their manpower fully in looking at better products, experiences, and all bringing it down into the process, which they were scarcely doing before this. They were only focusing on invoicing, vouchers, and operations part of it. But here you have a different set of stuff, which is actually digital content being created on this processes, on this platform that we had already deployed. So ensuring that they are creating a digital asset into the future for post-COVID recovery. So post-COVID recovery, they are having all this manpower converted into digital assets sitting in the system so that when they get a query, they are able to create a very quick experience for the customer on a custom experiential itinerary, which is very quick but very customized, able to be reverted in few minutes, like less than 30 seconds to 2-3 minutes. So what happens is customer engagement increases. The new important products come in, because in what happens that when we always try to deploy technology in companies, they always had a running business, and allocating resources for this kind of transformation, it was always a trouble and it was always second preference. So, but in this scenario, we have stopped, and since now the manpower is completely deployable, they can train the team. This is what exactly happening, and that led to massive increase in usage of our systems because it's completely cloud-based and all those kind of things. And these companies able to assetize their manpower sitting from home, creating a stronger company for post-COVID. So this manpower utilization will be very, very important. That's something which I would suggest companies to look at, consider in whatever way, be it Excel sheets, somewhere, create assets, create digital assets such that you can not waste these man hours and keeping them engaged. Then when they're doing this, they will also uh, you know, consistently improve their knowledge on destination, products, experiences, such that they will be able to service clients much faster post-COVID. So that you don't have those very important thing of river time managed with quality, and which can increase the efficiency of your company post-COVID, which is very important for these companies to recover and sustain and recover at a faster pace. Also, even mostly lead to growth. So that's what we have been doing.
Neil, Neil,
That's it.
Neil, it's fantastic to hear you say that. Again, the opportunity seen by your clients that they're taking advantage of such a difficult time and investing in their future. But you're dealing with a lot of operators, a lot of hotel operators, a lot of tour operators. I assume all of them aren't that forward thinking. So if you can give us an idea, what percentage of your clients are able to use this time to invest for the future and stay focused, to give us kind of an idea?
Yeah. So initially it was just 5-10 clients which came forward, but now it is almost 40-50%. It is about time. They always thought, okay, lockdown is going to release faster and things like that. Okay, they took a break kind of a thing. They were processing cancellations and all this trouble initially. So a lot of people did not really get onto it. Now that they are going through a lot of training, a lot of mechanisms, over last 1.5 months, yes, they feel the importance of it, recovery, to be more important. So it is every 2 days, 3 days, we have more people coming in. I'm sure. It is bad for my business in one way, as that nobody has money to pay. But I believe this support is very, very important for the industry to go forward. So we are full time on. All my team is fully working. In fact, we have started some extra work because these new tools that can improve efficiency of work from home, which can increase and delegate work and monitor with targets and all those kind of things, which is very important for organizations. When you're working sitting in an office, able to monitor them is much easier. But it is a very different tactics of able to get quality work output in one direction of your thoughts of as an entrepreneur to get done while sitting at home at different locations with minimal infrastructure. So we are consistently tying up small knots to ensure that is coming together for the entrepreneur, so he can survive through this.
Great, thank you, Neil. Mary Ellen, I'd like to get your insights. You wear two different hats. You're a content creator, AKA a travel blogger, but you're also organizing tours for inbound tourists coming to India. How's COVID affected you?
Well, initially, I mean, when it really started to hit in March, and India announced lockdown, and I don't know whether Amani mentioned it or not, but India has one of the most stringent, probably the most stringent lockdowns in the world. There's absolutely no movement of any kind in this country. I mean, I'm circumcised by a little area. Circumscribed. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip, I guess. And I'm just in this little tiny area that I cannot move out of. And so that's obviously having a massive effect on everything. I mean, my blog traffic dropped by something like 75 or 80%. All my monetization efforts completely kind of almost disappeared. And I was getting a lot of inquiries for India for Beginners, to my custom tour business, India for Beginners. I was getting a lot of inquiries. That business was really starting to pick up. February was just, incredible month, a blockbuster month. It was, I was run off my feet practically, just trying to keep on top of running the blog, content creation, running the India for Beginners. It was one of the busiest and, financially most successful months of my life in February. And then boom, March, everything just, completely stopped. I mean, it's, you know, I'm not the only person. This is a crazy experience for people in the travel industry to just be running along as normal and then just have everything just end. It's really shocking. And I think that we all have been going through various phases. You know, it's like the phases of grief or something. Like we've been going through phases, which Neil had, you know, talked about. Like you go through phases where you try to, you know, keep your business going, and then you go through a phase where you feel really despondent, and then you go through a phase, all these different phases. You know, certainly that's been true for me, but I'm a very positive, forward thinking person. So the phase I'm in right now is to really try to, imagine or possibly reimagine the future, come up with new ideas, come up with new content. I have not stopped creating content. My content's a little bit different. It's more the type of content now that's more relevant to these days and times. A lot of travel bloggers are pivoting. A lot of people are creating content that's actually useful right now. I mean, I have a couple of blog posts that are doing well. One is, top 20 best movies about India is doing really well. Top 25 best books about India is doing well. 20 famous foods of India with recipes you can follow at home. These blog posts are doing really well. I mean, because these are things that people can, access, at home. And there's, they can use this information right now. It's relevant now. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, and some of the other panelists have already mentioned this, I mean, I think everyone on this panel has a real interest in sustainability and responsible travel. And so I'm also creating new custom itineraries. And I feel actually more motivated now, even than before, to create experiences for people in India that are meaningful, that are responsible, that are sustainable. I actually feel more motivated to do that because, post-COVID, I think, I don't know this for sure, but I think people are going to be looking for these more authentic experiences and more meaningful experiences. And that's been my area of expertise. And I'm going to continue. I mean, I'm just thinking positively.
Okay, great, Mary Ellen. It's great to hear that optimism. Shelly, I want to hear from you. Both you and Mary Ellen organize tours, but for two totally different markets. Mary Ellen is welcoming foreigners who are inbound to India, and you're working with the domestic market. So what's going on since the start of COVID with your company?
Well, yes, like everybody else, I very much echo what Marilyn was just mentioning, that how this particular phase has brought us to another kind of phase as to how do we portray our organization as such. So talking about COVID, like, in the past, from mid-March, I've canceled around 5 trips, and each having around a group of 20 people, and despite having a partnership model, I would say, that I usually have for my organization, a lot of us and the entire supply chain has got affected. So for me, while I was taking connecting each and every kind of operator, or be it a hotelier, or be it a transporter, I think I was answerable to each one of them. So right now, I'm actually become into the fact that I'm just refunding money to everybody where else I can get, and basically support each and every customer who's come and who's taken my services. Keeping this entire situation in mind, definitely we are working towards another phase where we could collaborate together, because this is a great opportunity. We can't do anything about it, but probably prepare ourselves for the future. So in that case, how I've reached out to every partner to kind of, create better itineraries, take a step towards more sustainable products, more responsible products, in order to be better prepared for the future. And I think even Neil mentioned going, adding technology to your businesses, working on content important. So I guess all these, taking all these as opportunities right now is something that I am looking at, and even encouraging every partner of mine to kind of, take on. So, yeah.
Excellent. And Charlie, I don't want to put any pressure on you. I noted you have a guitar behind you. So maybe
Yes.
potentially at the end of the panel, you can play us out with some great music, but you don't have to commit now. So again, all of us are under tremendous pressure within the travel industry. So we've spoken about a couple of different silver linings, a couple of reasons to be optimistic. Mani, I want to hear from you. How are you controlling cost? I mean, revenues are driven down to zero. Do you have any strategies or advice or tips that you're utilizing to slow down the cash burn?
Well, multiple ways to slow down the cash burn and do the cost controlling at this time, which becomes very, very crucial and imperative part of surviving through a crisis like this. So we are definitely, since our model is a community-based model, so we cannot really, save money from not paying a lot of our employees, because a lot of employees in our ecosystem are people coming from the village communities, and coming from very marginalized village communities. So, but at the same time, understanding that we will not be able to pay them the 100% of salaries or remuneration, we are paying them 50% and piling on the remaining 50% or X percentage as a liability for the future. And at the same time, seniors in our organizations, including the directors, and we're not withdrawing salaries, and most chunk of our manforce of our work ecosystem comprises of volunteers coming from all the parts of the world. So in a model like ours, first of all, the operating cost is very, very, very low as compared to the other conventional models of tourism. But at the same time, to control and cut it further, we are becoming more conscious of our a monthly maybe office rentals and electricity bills, and all those things which are in place.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mani. And Neil, you work more for a traditional corporation. What's going on there? What are your strategies there to control cost? Are you having to lay off employees? Are you having to furlough them off, or a reduced work week? What's going on in terms of controlling cost? And remember to take yourself on mute.
In technology business, we are investing more because we cannot shy away at this point of time and say, sorry, nobody's paying, so let me let me scale down, because it's very important to stay active at this point of time, because that paddle is what is going to give me the next breath of things. And it is most important that digital is the way for a lot of organizations to survive. So if I am scaling out, then you have potential. I mean, so the new things which is required for the new generation of the way forward will slow down into the market. So I'm feeling from my own resources to ensure that my team is fully on. And as I said, I've picked up more people to work on few areas that we need to immediately solve for the industry. And that's very, very important. So we are going against the direction of the flow to ensure that we deliver something very different for the industry when it is needed, not when it is all solved. This is something which is needed right now.
Okay, great to see you. I mean, challenging environment. Great to see that you're investing in the future and optimistic of the potential further down the road. I'd like to bring Mary Ellen in again. And I think what we're seeing around the globe is the predictions are international travel will start up at some point. We don't know when, but most experts are saying domestic travel will start off first. So what's your take on that? And having a business that's relying on international customers, inbound customers, is there any potential chances that you'll be reworking your business at all when you see a domestic rebirth starting before international arrivals?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking me that question. It's actually got me thinking. In fact, even though my entire blog and my entire business is focused on Western travelers specifically, I write for a very specific, I call them Eat, Pray, Love readers. I write for women in USA, UK, Canada, Australia, who want to come to India and have a meaningful adventure. They want to do something off the beaten path. I have a very specific target audience, and I know who they are. And yeah, that is very true. But at the same time, the truth is that half my blog audience and half my social media followers, at least half, maybe more, are actually in India. And so I have a really big following in India, and I haven't kind of, it's kind of a crass word, but I haven't monetized that audience at all. I haven't really even looked at it. And, you know, maybe that is, you know, something that I can do, because I live here, and I love it here, and I can, you know, I don't know exactly what it is I can do for the domestic travelers, but, you know, it's definitely, I think, worth exploring. But in the meantime, one of the ideas that I've just started to work on is creating virtual tours. And I think that this is a good idea for a couple of reasons. One, because nobody's traveling right now, especially my target audience, the international travelers. But the other one is, I mean, a lot of people do want to travel in India, and they do feel very daunted. A lot of foreigners, I mean. Well, that's even people in India are daunted about traveling in India. Women solo travelers in India, Indians, are very daunted. It's a daunting travel destination. So I have an idea to create virtual tours of India using my storytelling skills and multimedia virtual tours that can actually introduce India to foreign audience, or to an audience that maybe is in a different part of India. And so actually, this is one of the ideas I'm really excited about, because I think it's a good way, it's a good marketing tool to help people get their feet wet and get an idea of what it might be like. And it also isn't, for a storyteller like myself, it's a really inspiring kind of challenge. So I'm actually really excited about this idea.
And Mary Ellen, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of my questions, because I've heard from other tour operators around the world about the concept, about the idea of creating virtual events. So one, I'm curious, what path are you going to be taking? In other words, are you going to be monetizing these virtual tours and trying to sell them? Or are you going to be using it basically under a marketing umbrella to get people engaged and interested once things do open up? And then, not to put you under pressure, but give us one example of what a virtual tour is. How would it work?
Well, I'll tell you, there's all kinds of different versions of this right now, and a lot of them are really in development because it's kind of still fairly new for a lot of people, and people are kind of scrambling to put things together, including me. I'm just researching virtual tours right now. I'm not an expert at all, and it's going to be a long process. But the idea that I have in my mind is actually to do two versions, to do one that's free, that you can just sign up for, and you'll get maybe delivered by email potentially, I'm not sure. And it'll be like a little mini, you get your feet wet. But I do want to do a monetized one. I want to do one where you actually take a tour to India. You come to India, you come to Rishikesh. I can do a lot of videos and stuff while I'm here. And then I've got a lot of contacts in India, people who are teaching yoga here, yoga masters here in Rishikesh. I've got some really good contacts who are wonderful Indian chefs, and all kinds of different people who can be part of this. I can get them on board, and they can actually teach, like they can, and there may even be an opportunity for people to interact with them and get some personal instruction. And that would be something you would have to pay for. That would be a model that you would pay for, especially if there's going to be some personal interaction. So I'm just really looking into this right now, and I don't have set answer for you, but I'm excited by it. I think there's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, just as an example, I had Stuart McDonald from Travel Fish on a panel last week. He's been a content creator in Southeast Asia for 15 years. His website is called Travel Fish, and he recently created a new product called Travel
Couchfish.
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 So
I know, I signed up for it.
Okay, so he created a product called Couchfish, which is a daily virtual email tour of popular places in Southeast Asia to keep you engaged, allow you to dream of better days and beautiful beaches. Okay, thank you for sharing that, Mary-Ellen. Shelly, I want to go back to you, and we've mentioned silver linings a couple of times, and what I've heard from this panel as well as some others I've moderated is hopefully there'll be a bigger movement or bigger change to sustainable travel. So we need to go slower. We need to have more homestays and not churn through these destinations. So what are your thoughts there? Are you thinking about a different product set? Are you seeing any potential here with a move to more sustainable travel?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Rick. But this is exactly something that I'm working on. In fact, for me, 2019 was a year of rehaul. It was a year of revamping all my products. For that matter, in fact, I was looking forward to a great year, which was 2020. Unfortunately, those products have been stalled as of now, and I still haven't really taken it out in the market. But they were largely worked on collaborating with sustainable partners, hotels, which give you an offbeat experience. So for me, like I said, that I prefer experiences, I chase for experiences, and that come together when you go more local, when you go more authentic. When that comes in play, I think with this whole pandemic crisis, there's definitely a shift in the mindset of people. And while we've been pushing that for quite some time, like we've been pushing all our customers to to choose more sustainable options, more sustainable products. However, that wasn't getting a very good response. But I guess this pandemic has definitely given that opportunity for sustainable market to pull up and come forward, because I think people would be more cautious with this whole environment, climate crisis, everything, like it's all coming on their face. And probably for me, I think there are a lot of people who've reached out to me and they said that, how travel had actually become a trend. Like everybody wanted to go to so and so place, and they had to just take off because the other person was going. But I guess and there were 3-4 new people during this whole lockdown, the quarantine life, and they were going back and getting back to me and asking me as to, don't you think like, travel industry is dead? Like, I'm already feeling so good being in this home, and I'm having that meditation, and I'm pretty much at ease. I mean, why do I need to travel? So I guess there are a lot of people who've started questioning that. Probably this is the time when they're feeling that they're probably at that ease and they don't have pollution issues. But yes, once everything gets back on track, everybody is moving towards they're working and everything gets back on track, people would want to go for breaks, and they would definitely, definitely there's a stall, but there will be an opportunity, and bringing that in the market. So while we are working on the sustainable products, I feel that are really going to move forward, and that will be the things that people will want to choose for. So
thank you, Shelly. Yeah. And for our audience, I'd love to hear from you. So if you have any questions for the panelists, you have a chat box, and feel free to share any questions, which I can direct to one of the different panelists. Neil, do you want to say something? But you have to go off mute.
Yeah, Marilyn has some fantastic experiences out there. I've read her, stories. I follow her. So I mean, amazing for somebody to come into India and love India so much. And probably, she knows more than 95% of the Indians, she knows India better. So that's a commitment she has got. That's fantastic. So it is like, I mean, I can tell you, guaranteed, written, that is 95% of the people don't know as much as Marilyn does to know about India. So thank you for, opening eyes of the world into India for that. We are very grateful for that. And of course, you are more Indian now. So, yeah. But on virtual tours is an interesting way that you are exploring. So I had this question about, is virtual tours killing the opportunity of that surprise and thrill to go to a place? Or is it creating that inspiration to go to that place? How does it work? How do you see this?
Good question. I think that's for you, Marianne.
Well, my whole background is storytelling and marketing. And, that's been I've been in the profession my entire adult life. So I am obviously a big believer in storytelling and marketing. And I think you need to mute Money.
Okay. Sorry.
So my answer is that, I think that the whole idea of it is to actually, inspire people and motivate people to travel, because they're virtual tours are fun and they're interesting and they're better than nothing when you're locked down. But the truth is, there's nothing like the experience of travel. There's nothing like actually being there, smelling the food cooking in the market, seeing the colors and the sounds of the street, and having your own personal experiences, and going through whatever transformation that you go through because of that travel experience. There is no substitute for that. There's no question about it. So I think it's more of a marketing, to be honest. I think it falls more in the marketing side rather than replacing of the experience side.
Okay, and just a reminder for everybody to leave their profiles on mute. And Mani, I want to go back to you on this whole question about sustainable travel. I mean, you're a social good enterprise. So is the market moving to what you already knew, or give us your insights of what you see happening post-COVID?
Well, I think, and the kind of trend which I can foresee is that this entire concept of sustainable travel is going to bounce back once the world re-emerges from Corona. Because anything in the market, if you look at the market in the pyramid style, whatever the top of the pyramid or the niche class or segment of the society follows, sooner or later it becomes a mass market. So when we look at the conventional tourism trends, and especially the luxury tourism, it was always started by people who were on the top of pyramid, who could afford luxury holidays and go to resorts and hotels with big room inventories, but at the same time not impacting the planet in a very right way. So now after the world, not just a city, a state, or a country, but when the entire world is going through a crisis like this, when it has really forced us to rethink, repurpose, and realign, and relook at our impact on the planet, I think it is going to, especially the sustainable trend, is going to hit largely among the people who are sitting in the top of pyramid. And when the people who are at the mid and bottom of pyramid start looking up to those people who are going to places which are more sustainable, or traveling in ways in which they are leaving less carbon footprint, or so it needs to become a little more in, or the new thing in, so that sooner or later it is followed by the masses. So I think it's a great opportunity for all of us, not just in the country, as I said, but globally, to make sustainable and responsible tourism not an alternative travel choice anymore, but more of a mainstream travel choice, because we need it. We all need more authentic experiences. We all need to, go to places, and as Marilyn very rightly said, that, a lot of places and countries can be very well marketed on content. on storytelling. So we need more of those experiences which are transformative in nature, in nature, where we come back and we keep those experiences within us forever. And at the same time, those experiences leave a positive impact on the communities, of the operating areas we go to, and at the same time, the, planet and environment. So it's a great, I see it as a great opportunity for the entire, trend of sustainable and responsible and conscious tourism to become more, a trendy and in a way gradually more mainstream. So I think it can really, really, really bounce back.
Okay, great. And we have our first question from the audience. Hello, Sandeep Talwar. Thank you for your question. It's for Neil. Neil, do you work with small independent agents, or is your technology platform only for larger companies in the tourism business? How's that for a sales lead?
Yeah. So I'm into technology for very large organization. With the largest is 150 people company, and the smallest is one-person travel company. So it's so scalable. Be it from an outbound or an inbound operator, be it a single-man company or multi-office, multi-department, specialized processes, even into groups, MICE, FIT, all of that, with very unique, different workflows. These are not the same workflows, but yes, as simple as that, one-person travel company working from a phone. So you don't need to work on a ERP. Typically, you don't end up using a phone today. So we have a mobility process for it. So we have a mobile application on the web interface also. And to answer your question very precisely, yes, one-man travel company can even adapt our system. And it's affordable to do that too.
Excellent. And Sandeep gets a gold star because he also has the second question, and this one is for Shali. And it's a pretty good question. And this is going to be a tough challenge for anybody who is providing experiences. But when you roll out tours, when your clients come back to you for your experiences, how are you going to take into account social distancing? Any ideas, whether it's transportation, hotels, or you're gathering and walking around and visiting, taking a hike or visiting a city? What are your thoughts or strategies?
Sure. I think we all must have taken this particular issue in mind, and this applies not only to travel, but I guess to offices, to any like malls, market, anywhere. I think it's a challenge everywhere, and this will be a challenge unless we have a vaccine for COVID as of now, because there are so many other diseases, like there are the infections which are already prevailing, but definitely we have a cure for them, we have a vaccine for them, we have a medicine for them. And so I think the fear is more about the cure as of now, or the more about how we are working on the treatment. So I guess if that's sorted, I think every industry for that matter, be it travel, be it any group travel or anything, would be a little lesser in terms of the fear that we have. But yes, definitely this has also given us a good opportunity to rethink on the hygienic factors, on how who's actually joining the group tour. So I would rather want to look into the medical history of people. I would want a certificate probably that I'm looking at, like when they sign up for a group travel, they should be perfectly fit and sign some declarations. Probably reach out to hotels only which are more concerned about hygiene, probably have sanitized enough, or even in general, I mean, hygiene is something that I've always kept in mind. For me, accommodation is one of the USPs, like I keep in mind. So I guess that will be just more stringent now, for or not only for me, but I guess for every organization who are offering best services. So I guess it totally depends on how the things turn up after COVID. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt here, but I think this is the first virus in the human history which is more viral than just being a virus. So, it is not just merely, limited to, its physical reality, but also the kind of
Yes.
collective fear which it has created all over the world. So it's really, I mean, what Shelly said is very right, and at the same time, it's very unpredictable to, foresee where we are going and how the world re-emerges. So it's more viral, more of a viral phenomena than merely being a virus.
Okay. And Mary Ellen, now I'm going to put the pressure on you. I want you to take out your crystal ball. And I think you have an interesting perspective on the international market since you play two different roles. You're a content creator as well as a tour organizer for inbound international tour. So one, you're a forward indicator at some level because people are researching about India typically before they go on their trip. So maybe you'll see volume at some point increasing when people are getting more confident, and then you'll see them fall through when they go to book a trip. So tough question. We're not going to hold you to it, but how do you, I don't know how or when, how is the international market? How do you envision it opening up again, and how will it be different? And what will we need to do differently to ensure that we see the growth coming back from the international market?
Yeah, that is a really, really tough question. I'll just fall back on some anecdotal experiences I've had. I'm in a lot of different travel forums, especially women's travel forums online, talking to people. And what I've kind of picked up from just listening and people responding to, where do you want to travel when you can travel again? And everybody started dreaming and guessing and doing all of these things. And there's a couple of patterns that I've picked up. And one of them is a lot of people seem to be dreaming about experiences where they immerse in nature, where they just go off somewhere beautiful and quiet and peaceful, and they go trekking and sort of these sorts of things. And of course we do have a lot of those experiences here in India. There's 3 of panelists are in the state of Uttarakhand, and Uttarakhand is known for adventure travel, spiritual travel, all of the things that I think people are going to be looking for. So I feel like I'm really well located by being here. And people, there are people who are passionate about yoga, people who are passionate about spiritual journeys. These people are just as passionate as ever, and they're just itching to get going again. People who love to come to India are very passionate about travel in India. They're not usually, they have a very specific passion. They want to come back, and I've seen them in forums saying the minute the airport opens, the minute the plane takes off, they're going to be on the first plane back to India. These people are, I think, going to be people who are really passionate about these more meaningful journeys. I think possibly they're going to be among the first movers back in the space, and they are my target audience. They are who I speak to. So I'm going to continue to try to educate them, appeal to them, offer them services, and do my part to, like everyone else on the panel, to keep promoting sustainable choices, meaningful choices, choices that support the local community, the offbeat places. And I also want to say, I was listening to a webinar by the mainstream travel industry in India, and this was a woman who is actually working with the Ministry of Tourism in India, and she talked about, this was just a couple of days ago, and she talked about marketing more offbeat places in India, and I almost fell off my chair, because people in the travel industry in India know that the mainstream mostly just markets the Golden Triangle and the Taj Mahal, and they think their work is done. So when I hear somebody from the mainstream talking about how maybe it'll be a good idea going forward to market offbeat places in India, I was like, oh, okay, there's a big sea change happening here. I'm really excited about it. So doesn't 100% answer your question, but these are just kind of the things that I've noticed and that I'm concentrating on.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you for sharing that anecdote with the tourism minister. To give you, I mean, that's a giant sea change if they're starting to look beyond the Golden Triangle and Rajasthan. Neil, I'm going to go to you as well with the crystal ball question. because I think, again, you're dealing with so many hotels, you're dealing with so many different tour operators. If you can, how do you envision India coming out of this? Is it going to be domestic tourism for 6 months and then the international spigot's going to come on with a couple of changes? What are you thinking? What are you seeing?
I see that it's not just India. Globally, tourism has to go start domestic. One side, you have investment and infrastructure of tourism available. On the other side, you have people frustrated who has never been in a room for more than 24 hours and 48 hours, being pushed into that place for pretty long time. For sure, the level of, there is one side, yes, they find peace and things like that, but in a lot of other places, there's a lot of frustration. The kids want to get out of that and go out, and the person in handling the kitchen is like day in day out, tea, coffee, food, and it keeps on, right? So and there is no break. So right through Sunday. So that means a lot of pressure is building up. So in fact, so when the lockdowns open, there's going to be definitely travel everywhere as domestic. Now that too, like large countries like India, people may not cross borders of states, but they would definitely do inside the state itself, because they want really short breaks, at least to start with, two night, 3 night. And then there is where exactly that stays the offbeat. It's very important, very critical. It naturally creates the social distancing capability, right? You go to a beach with some busy place. No, that's not what the people want. So they want to get on of the offbeat roads. So that is going to be quite potential. So investing anywhere there in terms of information, in terms of reorienting yourself, there is a potential, and you can start recovering slowly from this segment rather than keeping null and keeping wait for the big thing to happen. So start your efforts. That's something which definitely I would look for within domestic and all of that. Now, coming to India is concerned, I've just watched some very interesting numbers out there. So with 1.3 billion people around, all right, and most importantly, with just 176 policemen for 100,000 people, right? So policing to population ratio, if you're looking at, it is very low than many countries which are largely affected even today. So with even that, India achieved this lockdown with very minimal penetration of, compared to the numbers of COVID, has been an excellent, showcase of what has been the thing, and hence there is going to be, India should open up earlier for that. Of course, they will be very stringent about it because they did make a lot of decisions based on it. But then, yes, it will open up. Now, coming to that, the next thing is health. So there would be, and India being one of the major sources of Ayurveda, being the driver, yoga has got a lot of influence, this thing here. So all of that and wellness. So all of these are key punching numbers and points that can drive business to India, especially in tourism. So when it opens, whenever it opens, and I don't want to be it earlier or make it happen immediately. That's not fair. It is not good for anybody there. So, but whenever it happens, because of this can be a very important rider for Indian tourism. So staying close to that, businesses can be very interesting, or investing in that space could be interesting. So investing does not need money, does not mean money. It could be investing on relationships, man hours, and all these kind of things. Knowing, understanding, collating, and ready to go whenever the business is ready. So that's what I would see on this. I hope I could answer.
Nope.
answer your typically that.
Excellent. Thank you for your insights. And at that time, or at this time rather, I want to thank my panel so much for their time, their insights, their thoughts. I'd like to just remind everybody, I mean, I think the panel's expressed a fair amount of optimism and hope, and they've looked at the silver lining of the situation of movement to sustainable travel, a time to invest in their business, an opportunity to reach out to their clients and build stronger relationships. I want to thank everybody for joining us for this Travel Massive panel tonight. Some of you came into the group a little bit later into the presentation. Within a day or two, we'll be posting the video to travelmassive.com. So make sure that you are part of the Travel Massive community and have a profile. And again, you'll be able to see this video replay of our great panel. So again, thanks to everybody for joining us, and have a good week and good luck and stay safe, everybody. Thank you.